Jiyan, our Dragon General, was the first limited resonator banner, and with his rerun upcoming, there's no better time to refresh your memory on how to build him.
My path remains true!
Let's start with his basic attack combo. It is a 5-hit combo which deals insignificant damage. Luckily, you usually don't use these basic attacks, so don't worry about leveling them. Before we go over his resonance skill and resonance liberation, you need to know how his forte circuit works. Jiyan can build up resolve using either his basic attacks or an intro skill. Once he has 1 bar of resolve, he can consume it to enhance his skill damage by 20% or give his liberation a big nuke at the start. While the skill damage buff seems nice, it is always smartest to use this for your resonance liberation, cause when you're in liberation form, you will always have the 20% increase on your skill. Now if we know what his forte does, we can go back to his abilities. And the first one we're gonna talk about is his resonance skill, Wind Queller. This is a simple dash forward dealing 106.36% damage a total of 4 times. Unless it is enhanced, which will deal 126.36% damage 4 times instead. And finally, we have his resonance liberation, Emerald Storm Prelude. When Jiyan uses Emerald Storm Prelude and he possesses a 1 bar of resolve, he will start off by using Emerald Storm Finale. This is just like an intro skill, except this does a lot of damage. 1000.37% attack worth of damage to be exact. This is no joke, so you want to make sure you always use your resonance liberation when you have at least 1 bar of resolve. After Jiyan uses liberation, he enters his liberation stance for 10 seconds. In this stance, Jiyan's basic attack, heavy attack and dodge counter will all be replaced by Dragon Spear. This deals a lot of damage, a lot of times. And all of these attacks will be counted as heavy attack damage. Besides changing his attacks, Jiyan will have increased resistance to interruption while in this stance. And finally, we have his inherent skills. His first one increases his attack by 10% for 15 seconds after using his intro skill. And I know what you're thinking, only 10%? Well, might I inform you that Jiyan has the second highest base attack in the game, coming in at 428, just 25 base attack behind Changli. His second inherent skill is a nice bonus. When Jiyan hits a target, his crit damage will increase by 12% for 8 seconds. Sadly, this just adds 12% and it doesn't stack, but it is still a very nice damage increase. In total, he gets 28% crit value from his forte board. I recommend leveling his resonance liberation and his forte circuit first. His resonance liberation is a lot of damage, and if you play him correctly, you can use it every rotation. His forte circuit is also important, since he has his massive 1000% attack scaling on his forte. And lastly, if you've leveled his liberation and forte, you can level his resonance skill. It deals a decent amount of damage and you can always squeeze in a skill between the Dragon Sphere attacks. And if you use Jinshi's weapon, leveling this becomes very important. With 2 Claymore characters in the game, Jiyan has a couple of really good options. First, let's talk about his signature weapon, the Verdant Summit. This weapon has a total of 587 base attack, and as it stands now, this is the highest base attack on a weapon in the game. Besides having a lot of base attack, this weapon comes with a 48.6% crit damage substat. But what really sets this weapon apart from Jinshi's weapon is its passive. It increases all attribute damage by 12%, plus it increases heavy attack damage bonus by a total of 48%. My recommendation would be, if you really like Jiyan, I would get this weapon, since the Verdant Summit is about 11% better than any other weapon for him at the moment of recording. For comparison, we will baseline the strength at 100%. The second option is Aegis of Harvest, Jinshi's signature weapon, also with 587 base attack and a nice 24.3% crit rate. This weapon is a great stat stick for Jiyan. Just like Jiyan's weapon, it also gives 12% all attribute damage bonus. But the real difference is in its second part. When you cast an intro skill, you will receive 24% skill damage bonus for 12 seconds. And when you cast your resonance skill, you will receive another 24% bonus skill damage for 12 seconds. This is pretty good for Jiyan if you've leveled your resonance skill, since even though his signature weapon is still better, this is a great option if you don't have it. This weapon compared to the Verdant Summit is about 89% as strong. And finally, if you're free to play, I can recommend the Helios Cleaver. With a still pretty decent 412 base attack and 30.3% attack, this weapon is pretty decent. Although crit would be the preferable substat, attack percent is not too bad. The passive is also pretty useful. When you cast your resonance skill, you gain 3 to 6% attack every 2 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. Once it reaches 4 stacks, it will reset itself after 6 seconds. Of course, it is better to get one of the 5-star weapons, but if you have the Helios Cleaver at R5, you will still have a weapon that is 70.7% as strong as a Verdant Summit. Jiyan has perfect synergy with the Sierra Gale set, with its Sonata effect giving 10% arrow damage and another 30% after using an intro skill. It is by far his best in slot set. Besides being the best in slot, the Force Cost Echo, Valium Bringle, is practically made for him. When you use the monkey, besides doing a total of 515.2% attack, it will give you 2 effects. The first is a 12% increase to your heavy attack damage, and the second is a 12% increase to your arrow damage. These both last for 12 seconds. The only downside the monkey could have is that if you dash cancel out of the second hit, you're in the air. But when you have 1 bar of resolve, you can use Jiyan's liberation while in the air. So Kuro Games already solved that issue for you. With the game still being in its early stages, there aren't a lot of resonators in the game yet. Luckily, Jiyan has 3 good sub DPSs he can take to the battlefield, and the last one might even surprise you. The resonator that will always be played with Jiyan at the time of recording will be Farina. I've made a total of 3 videos before this and I've said it every time. Farina has so many universal buffs that she is a must-have in any team. Her short field time healing and buffs that last for a long time make her a perfect fit for a resonator like Jiyan, who likes to be on field for a long time. As for the sub DPSs, you have a couple options. The first one is going to be Mortify. Mortify is by far the best sub DPS for Jiyan, so if you have him, definitely use him. He has pretty high personal damage with very low field time. And since he's a pistol wielder, he can use the Static Mist, which increases the incoming resonator's attack by 10% for 14 seconds. And besides that, his auto skill increases heavy attack damage by 48%, which is pretty huge. If you don't have Mortify however, one of the 2 options you can use would be Sunwa. Sunwa doesn't have anything to buff Jiyan at C0, but she has insanely fast field time and pretty decent damage. So if you just want to quick swap into Jiyan, Sunwa is a good option. And the last option, which you might not expect, is Alto. Alto's auto skill increases arrow damage by 23% for 14 seconds. This could be a good alternative for Mortify, since Alto can also use the Static Mist. The only problem is that Alto might struggle with energy efficiency, which could make your rotations a bit clunky if you don't have enough energy regeneration.
Fear no more.
I instantly wanted Jiyan when he got released. The way he looked, his character story and animations all seemed really cool, and I definitely don't regret it. He is still one of the highest damage main DPSs in the game, and I don't think that's going to change soon, even though I am hoping for Camellia to be the strongest unit in the game. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, might I recommend one on the screen right now. I appreciate you all. Bye!